Hello and welcome to this POV street video with the new Fuji XM5. If you have watched my videos before, or perhaps if you are subbed to the channel, then you know that I'm usually a Sony guy, but I bought this Fuji camera for myself this Christmas. And this is my first real test of it in the field. And I'm also using just the kit lens that came with the camera. We're out here just after New Year on a cold January day in Copenhagen. For me, this is also a test of the camera, like, is the focusing bad for Fuji, as some say? How is the dynamic range? And what about these straight out of camera presets or film simulations that you can use? So if you are also interested in this video is definitely for you, but also this is just a classic street photography video, so if you like street photography, then this is definitely a video for you. So when I arrived at central Copenhagen, I found out that I have forgotten this screw thing to put on my DJI action cam, so I had to hold it in my hand doing the whole street walk. This really limited me quite a lot, because then I only had one hand left to control the Fuji camera. Luckily, this is a really small camera, so it wasn't that difficult to do, but it made it really hard for me to control the dials and buttons, also because it was cold and I was wearing gloves. And this is the first takeaway I have from the camera here, is that it is really small. I don't have that big hands, but I really touched the focus wheel button thing quite a lot, changing the placement for the tracker, and this was quite annoying. So because I only have one hand, I'm not going to zoom in, so I decided to put the focal range around 23mm, making it equivalent to 35mm. Also, I'm quite constant using the lowest aperture. Sometimes during the walk I did change the exposure dial, but this was not that many times. Then I'm using continuous focus with the tracking put on, because I wanted to test out how this worked. And I can already say that I was pleasantly surprised. I really think it performed quite well. Of course, it did not always do what I wanted, but all in all, it was pretty good. So here we have a straight out of the camera photo versus an edited photo, and I think the straight out of camera photo is decent, but I do like the edited version more, and I think this is the case for all of these photos I took this day. First of all, a lot of the photos weren't really useful straight out of camera. It might have been due to all this really high contrast with deep blue shadows and the sun pretty bright on the sky. It might have been the profile or the film simulation that I was using, but I think that most of the photos did better when I did an edit in Lightroom. So I tried to do some of these puddle shots doing this street walk, but I kind of failed on all of them. If you are a sub to the channel, don't worry, I will still be using my Sony gear and doing videos with this as well. I just really liked this camera, at least on paper, and wanted to test it out. So I guess I will be adding this to my YouTube lineup, and I hope that you will continue to find this interesting as well. Perhaps you are just like me, a keen Sony user, but you are also a bit interested in the Fuji lineup, and yeah, I might be able to add some points and takeaways for you if you want to decide to buy a Fuji camera in the future.
It's also, there's a war.
Just kör bara sånt här. In some instances, the JPEGs looked better than the RAWs when I did the edit, and this was quite fun, I think. In this case here, I do think that the unedited version is pretty good, but yeah, I like the edited version more. And one reason I prefer the edited version a lot of the times is also because you can compensate for some of the flaws, like straighten the lines and removing distortion and stuff like this, which you of course will not be doing when you are shooting just JPEG. And this metadata to correct the flaws of the lens will not be transferred when you are shooting JPEG. This is something you can only do on RAWs. So we're coming to the end of the shoot, my hands are really cold and the battery is about to die on the Fuji camera. This is the first time doing a photo walk, I think, where the camera dies before the action cam. It might have happened once with my Sony a6000, but this is usually not something that happens. So this just shows that the battery life isn't that great on these batteries, and I'm definitely going to buy some more backup batteries for when I am out with this camera.